Hi there. We are going to be studying and reading the tragedy of Othello, the Moor of Venice. That tells us that Othello is a Moor and that he is from Venice. Even though Venice is only going to take up the first act of the play, the rest of it is going to be on the island of Cyprus. Let me talk to you about Moors for just a minute. Moors are a group of people who are from Mauritania. And in the 700s, the Moors came from this area, conquered much of northern Africa, settled in Spain and Portugal, had a major influence on architecture, academics, math, all kinds of things. And so what that tells us is that Othello, being a Moor, he is going to be dark complected, he's going to be black. He lives in Venice, where Venetians are typically white. So it's going to be definitely a contrast between black and white. We're going to see that imagery throughout the play anyway, but we're also going to see the irony in that those who are black on the outside are often white on the inside, and those who have white skin possibly might be darker on the inside than we could possibly imagine. So that's going to be a really interesting contrast. In our play, that Act 1 is set in Venice, but Venice also owns the little island of Cyprus, and in Act 2, Turkey is going to pose a threat to invade Cyprus, so the Duke of Venice is going to send General Othello and all of his troops and men to Cyprus to defend it against the Turks. Once they get there in Act 2, there's going to be a big storm, and the Turkish ships will have sunk and drowned, and the war will be over. And so the rest of the play will be set on this island apart from civilization. So we kind of have this, idea of this kind of untamed, wild, exotic place, separate from the rest of the world. Makes for a perfect prompt on alienation and separation. All right, let's see what comes next. Next, we have our characters from Othello. All right, let me just show you right here. Here is Othello. I don't know why I have 3 pictures of Iago, but who knows why. All right, Othello is our Moor, our main character, our protagonist, and our tragic hero. He is not born of noble stature. All of Shakespeare's tragic heroes are all of nobility, and he is not of noble stature, but he is the general of the army. He has a wonderful reputation. There's a certain beauty about him, and he is a stellar human being. Everyone loves Othello. Iago is the antagonist. He is the villain, our Kenneth Branagh, who played our protagonist Hamlet. And he and Othello have this relationship where Othello trusts Iago implicitly. In fact, everyone in the play, throughout the whole play, trusts Iago. They have no idea how dark and sinister he is beneath that particular expression that he has and wears. Everyone calls him Honest Iago. It's interesting that the play is called Othello, but Iago actually has more lines than Othello does. A few of the minor characters are Desdemona. Well, certainly not minor, I would say. Desdemona is the Venetian daughter of the Senator Brabantio, and she has snuck off in the middle of the night to elope with Othello. So she's gone against her father, and Iago is going to play on this action in Act 1, Scene 1. Michael Cassio is a lieutenant that we're going to discover in Act 1, Scene 1, that Othello appointed as his lieutenant. In fact, he passed over Iago to appoint Michael Cassio, and part of that starts the action of the play. The other that starts the action of the play is Roderigo. Roderigo is in love with Desdemona. He's angry that Desdemona married Othello, and he wants to know what Iago's going to do about it. We find out, the play opens in the middle of a conversation between Iago and Roderigo. We can barely figure out what's going on. But what we find out is that Roderigo has been paying Iago money for him to ensure that Desdemona would be Roderigo's. And then all of a sudden he finds out that Othello's married Desdemona, and he's like, hey, what's going on? And we'll go through the rest of Act 1 here in just a minute. one of the things I want you to do is to look for the motivations of the characters throughout the play and to see how their motivations make them able to be so easily manipulated by Iago, who is always being called honest and who is anything but honest. The dramatic irony just kills you as we just hear these poor people who have no idea who Iago really is. In fact, there's one point in the play in scene 3, and Iago and Othello are kind of having a tussle, and Othello says, "Why do you have to be so honest? And if you're lying, you're really gonna, if you're lying, I'm gonna kill you," basically. That's what Othello says. And Iago goes, "Well, what good does it do to be honest? I'm always honest, and it never gets me anywhere. So I'm just gonna go on playing a fool and lying." And it's like the irony there is that Othello then turns around and says, "No, no, I want you to be honest." Oh my goodness. The other thing I want you to try to figure out, what could possibly be Iago's motivation for the villainy that he plans? And then how does the motivation seem to change throughout the play? We kind of notice him to have a particular motivation in Act 1, but then as the play progresses, we see that motivation go darker and darker. And we start to wonder, is Iago growing darker with this, as everything starts to fall into place into his evil scheme? Or was he always that way? And the fact that his schemes are working out are exposing the darkness of his heart. All right, that's my background on Othello, and I hope you have fun reading. Now, your assignment is to read Act 1.